It's safe to say that these past couple of years for the Atlanta Hawks have been pretty rough. So much so that rumors have been circulating about Trae Young potentially requesting a trade if the Hawks struggle to make a playoff push this season. So with that option on the table, the question now comes, are what teams realistically are in the race to win the Trae Young sweepstakes? What teams would have the best packages to offer the Hawks? And how probable are these trades to happening? With cap space, available trade assets, and opportunities for teams to make big-time trades more limited this year than ever, there is definitely a lot to break down. What's going on, guys? Bucket Media back with another video, and today we're talking about the top 3 teams that have the best chance of landing Trae Young if he becomes available. If you have any video suggestions or requests, please drop a comment so I can put it on the list and create it. If you enjoy this video, please subscribe. It is by far the best way to support this channel and ensure you don't miss out on any great basketball content like this. Also, like the video and comment on what team you think has the best trade package to offer for the Hawks. And what team is most likely to land Trae Young if he becomes available. With that being said, let's dive straight into the video. Before naming the top 3 teams that I think can get Trae Young, we have to talk about a few teams that didn't make the list but were in consideration. Teams like the Phoenix Suns, Miami Heat, Los Angeles Clippers, Minnesota Timberwolves, and Dallas Mavericks are all teams I think would be amazing fits for Trae Young, but don't have enough assets to offer the Hawks to land him. None of them would have enough draft capital, as well as players on similar contracts who can fit the Hawks' timeline. I was also heavily considering teams like the New Orleans Pelicans and the New York Knicks. For a team like the Pelicans, it doesn't seem worth it to blow up the amazing young core they have, plus the loaded draft capital they have, just to get one guy who isn't going to solidify them as a top team in the West. Plus, the Pelicans currently are a top team in the West with a very bright future, so it just doesn't make much sense. For the Knicks, it would be a cool scenario, being that you put a highly marketable Trae Young in the most marketable city in the NBA. But being that the Knicks have Jalen Brunson, who has been playing great, and having those two in the backcourt together would be a massive defensive liability. It just doesn't make much sense. So with that aside, let's get into the top 3 teams for Trae Young to land to. At number 3, I have the Toronto Raptors. Now this is a team I was up and down on for making a push to get Trae Young, until I realized one thing. Overall, the Raptors have been just very mediocre ever since Kawhi Leonard left, and they seem like they're just a second-round exit at best. When you look at their roster and the age of the players, aside from Scottie Barnes and OG Anunoby, most of their best players are in their prime, so it doesn't seem like they have much more growing to do. Toronto isn't the ideal free agency destination, and with all that added up, I came to the conclusion that the Raptors must take a risk, and that risk involves for trading for a star that can help potentially move the needle for them. Trae Young can be that guy, and when you look at what he brings to the table, he's a perfect fit for the Raptors, who lacks three-point shooting and playmaking other than Fred VanVleet. With the Raptors being one of the best defensive teams in the NBA yearly and having great coaching, a lot of Young's defensive liabilities wouldn't be transparent. Now, the question is, what would the Raptors give up to get Young? 3 guys that are off the table for me when it comes to a Trae Young package are Scottie Barnes, Pascal Siakam, and Fred VanVleet. An ideal trade package I think could work for both sides would involve the Raptors giving up OG Anunoby, Gary Trent Jr., Precious Achiuwa, and the Raptors' 2023, 2025, and 2026 first-round picks for Trae Young and Jarrett Culver. While this may seem like a huge haul to give up to try to land Young, this is what other teams' packages will look like as well. For the Hawks, they're able to get a great young player in OG Anunoby and 3 future first-round picks, which could be valuable down the line, and have Gary Trent Jr., who could start for the Hawks, and Precious Achiuwa as a trade asset for the future. For the Raptors, they're able to get Trae Young, who's one of the best scorers and playmakers in the entire league, who has shown he can be the difference for a winning team, and pair him alongside Fred VanVleet in the backcourt to give opposing teams nightmares on the offensive end. What you might be asking is, what's the difference between Young and Brunson or Young and VanVleet? The difference is VanVleet is an amazing defender and can easily take on the best guard on any team on defense. Plus, you pair Barnes and Siakam in the front court with Young, it will make their jobs a lot easier. Overall, I would give this trade for the Raptors an 8 out of 10 and for the Hawks a 7.5 out of 10. At number 2, I have the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets might be one of the most quiet but deadly teams in the NBA. They're currently the first seed in the Western Conference and led by 2-time MVP Nikola Jokic. But the problem with the Nuggets is that no matter how good they are in the regular season, they're never able to translate it over to the playoffs. This season, it seems like the West is wide open for anyone to reach the finals, and being that the Nuggets are the first seed, it isn't a stretch at all to say that they could make it and potentially win it all this year. But if that doesn't happen and they stink it up in the postseason and Trae Young becomes available in the offseason, I think the Denver Nuggets have one of the best trade packages to offer the Hawks for Young. But before getting into the trade package and specifics of it, let's talk about why Trae Young would be a great fit for the Nuggets. First of all, a Trae Young and Nikola Jokic duo would instantly be one of the best pairings in the NBA, given both of their play styles. They match with each other like peanut butter and jelly. The pick and rolls, pick and pops, and endless plays they can run through each other would be deadly. Not to mention you have guys like Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon, who also fit perfectly with Trae Young. Now, what is the trade package I'm thinking about? I think the Nuggets should give up Jamal Murray, Bones Highland, their 2024 and 2026 first-round picks, along with the Nuggets' 2025 and 2026 second-round picks. For the Nuggets, with this trade you obviously lose some depth at that lead guard spot. But you get Trae Young, who's a massive upgrade from Jamal Murray, and is a much better scorer, playmaker, and fit with the Nuggets. Not to mention he's less injury-prone than Murray. Adding a near 30-point-per-game scorer in Young can be the difference for how the Nuggets play come postseason. And with both Jokic and Young having the same struggles in the playoffs, where opposing defenses key on them and shut them down, pairing them together along with the other great pieces the Nuggets have can make them a much more versatile team. For the Hawks, although you lose Trae Young and you may downgrade at that point guard spot, you still get an above-average point guard in Jamal Murray, who has shown he can be one of the best point guards in the NBA when healthy. Not to mention you add Bones Highland, who still has massive upside and can start for the Hawks when Murray is injured, plus be a major threat off the bench when their full roster is healthy. The Hawks also add 2 future first-round picks to their draft capital, which can be high-value picks if things don't work out in Denver, and can give them much more options going forward. Overall, I give this trade an 8 out of 10 for the Nuggets and an 8.5 out of 10 for the Hawks. Finally, at number 1, I have the Orlando Magic. For the past decade, the Magic have had a problem putting a constructive roster together to make it over the hump, and have struggled to even find themselves a star. That all changed this year when Paolo Banchero showed the NBA he's a future superstar, and Franz Wagner showed flashes of being a future all-star. They also have seen glimpses of Wendell Carter Jr., but one position specifically that have struggled finding star power in is that guard spot. During their decade-long stint in the lottery, they were never able to find an all-star level guard that could help push them over the hump. But with the Magic being an extremely young team and Trae Young potentially becoming available in trades, and Trae just turning 24, it seems like he can fit the Magic's timeline. But how does Trae Young fit the Magic exactly? On a team that is in desperate need of a guard, Trae Young comes in with 27 points a game and fills all the scoring needed at that guard spot for the Magic. Not to mention the 10 assists per game he averages that he can enhance Banchero, Wagner, and Carter Jr.'s game. Trae can legitimately help push this Magic team from being a bottom dweller in the Eastern Conference to being one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference 3 years from now. Similar to Jokic and Trae, a Paolo and Trae duo would be one of the most polarizing duos in the NBA, and those are 2 guys who are all-star level players right now. But the question is, what would the Magic have to give up in order to get Trae Young? The Magic would trade Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony, Terrence Ross, Gary Harris, and their 2023 Magic first-round pick, the 2023 Bulls first-round pick, and the Magic's 2025 first-round pick. The Hawks would give up Trae Young and Aaron Holiday. If the Hawks made this trade, it would signify an automatic rebuild and that they would blow up their entire roster. The main attraction out of this deal are the picks involved. The Magic's first-round pick this year is a projected top 3 pick, and the Bulls' first-round pick this year is a projected top 10 pick on the higher side. Having 2 top 10 picks in a loaded draft like this year would be absolutely ideal to start a rebuild. If all hell breaks loose, and this is a disaster for Orlando, the 2025 Magic first-round pick could also hold a lot of value to it. Besides for the picks, you get a guy in Jalen Suggs who has shown flashes of potential but needs time to get his footing in the league. And on a newly constructed Hawks roster, he could do so given that he would start from day 1 and play the majority of the game. The same can be said about Cole Anthony to a lesser extent. And Anthony is a guy who could have a fresh start on another team and provide value to the Hawks on both ends of the floor. Ross and Harris are 2 salary fillers that can be moved on contending teams for draft capital or be used in trades to move on from other players in the current Hawks roster. On the other side of things, like we previously acknowledged, the Magic get their star point guard in Trae Young to help boost his team to playoff status immediately. Although the Magic might have a hole at that 2-guard spot, their second string rotation would be lethal, consisting of guys like Markelle Fultz, Bol Bol, Jonathan Isaac, Mo Wagner, Caleb Houston, and Chuma Okeke. Overall, I would give this trade an 8.5 out of 10 for the Magic and an 8 out of 10 for the Hawks. Although Trae Young did not officially request a trade yet, it may very well be a possibility that he becomes available in trade talks, and the Hawks would be very open to listening to other teams. There are numerous other teams who could desperately use Young and would love to get him, like the ones I mentioned earlier in this video, but not all of them have the assets, and these 3 teams specifically I think are the most likely destinations for Trae Young if he becomes available. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it to the end and you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. It's by far the best way to support me and help this channel grow. And I appreciate you so much if you're a returning or new subscriber. Stay tuned because we have some big stuff coming soon. If you haven't already, make sure to join the Discord link in the description, and like the video and comment on any new video suggestions for the future, or anything I could have done better. Also, comment what team you guys think has the best chance to land Trae Young, or any thoughts on this topic. Let's get a great basketball conversation started. I'll see you guys on the next video, and have a blessed day. Peace.